What's up, everybody? Welcome. Let me get Mr. Williams in. Mr. William. Mr. William. Where you at, Jeremy? I see you there. But there he is. All right. There he is. Unmute yourself, dopey. Unmute yourself. Oh, your mic's not connected. That's a problem. Connect your mic, fool. Connect your mic, fool. What's going on? It's saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? No? Well, this sucks. Rick's there. Jeremy, I can't hear you. You got to connect your mic. You got to connect your mic.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Finally.
Yo.
Let me get Rick here. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
You know, I'm so handsome.
Jeremy, you remember me?
What's up, Rick?
How are you?
Jeremy, sit down. You're making me fucking nauseous. Now I can't hear you. Can't hear you. We can't hear you. Whatever you just did. Now we don't hear you. Now you're muted. This fucking guy. This is his first time using this. We just switched over to this StreamYard thing.
From what? Zoom?
We would do Instagram, usually Instagram Live, mostly. But I think this is probably a better look. I like this better.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
There we go. We hear you, Jeremy. We hear you. Sit down before I vomit.
Sit down before you vomit? Okay, hold me a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, bub.
Just going to sit. Oh, shit.
Rick, how are you doing tonight?
Everything's good. Watching the Yankee game out of the corner of my eye. It's the top of the ninth. The Yankees were winning 9-5. They were getting crushed 5-1, and of course, the Yankees, they came back. What can I tell you?
Right.
Oh, wait. You guys, New York guys?
Of course.
I don't watch baseball, which is sacrilegious for a New Yorker, but what are you going to do? Look at you, Jeremy. It's still light out there.
Yes. It's L.A.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Sitting by the pool.
Hey,
So,
Jeremy, do you remember me or no?
You know, I do vaguely. I don't know if we worked together.
Okay, well, let me tell you who I am. So when you were up in Catskill with Kevin Rooney, when Rockman was still an amateur going to turn pro, okay, I brought Lionel Butler up there to spar with you and him.
So
you remember that?
I do.
Rick, I was actually in that camp. That's where Jeremy and I met. I was also Kevin's fighter. So I met you too. I was about 15 years old at the time.
Okay, there you go. I brought a kid named Tiger Prude up there too. You remember that? A little 135, 40 pounder?
I do not.
I don't know.
Yeah, I brought him up there too. And in the meantime, then when you turned pro, you were working with Bill Caton, and I was supplying you with all your opponents. And then when you went to Top Rank with the Goosen deal, I was supplying you with opponents again when you were Top Rank. So there you go.
So
we got a history.
So yeah.
Yes, we do.
Rick,
yes, we do.
You have you're quite an interesting man. You've been in boxing for how many years?
31.
31 years. Now, what I found to me, one of the coolest things that you did was you were the matchmaker for Tuesday Night Fights, correct?
No, I worked closely with Brad Jacobs. He was the program director, the executive director of this series. But they used to call me when there was a last-minute fallout, and they had one every week, for Christ's sakes.
Okay.
in one of the 2 or 3 bouts. And then I was the one that mentioned to him about doing these 4-round fights, and he called it just for starters. And we had a good relationship. We still do today. He's the COO at Top Rank these days,
Okay.
and we still have a good relationship to this day.
We
So it worked out well. But what I did was, when I entered boxing, everybody was a manager, a promoter, or a matchmaker, and I didn't want to manage. I didn't want to promote really, and I didn't want to do like the normal stuff that was done for 50 years in boxing, 100 years in boxing in reality.
Right.
So I started a business that's now called glazerboxing.com. But when I started, there was no internet. It was just, Glaser Boxing Inc. And what I do is I supply quality supplemental services to the world in professional boxing 24/7, 365. So you call me at 3:00 in the morning, it doesn't matter what time you call me, I answer the phone. Now, the reason why I said 10:30 tonight, well, the Yankee game was going to be over now anyways, but is because this is my slowest time period, is from 10:00 at night until 12:00. That's my one slow time where really nobody's really going yet. I talk to people in Australia, New Zealand, almost daily, and I start calling them at like between 12 and 1:00, or they start calling me between 12 and 1:00.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. So
when you mean supplementing, you gotta explain to the audience what you mean. I'm kind of. What do you do when you supplement?
come closer, Jeremy. You're very muffled.
well, what I do is a lot of these promotional companies have staffs, and I work closely with the executives. Some of the companies with the management. Okay, and I supply opponents, sparring partners. I bring promoters, fighters that need promoters. I bring fighters to managers. I'm like the middleman for almost everything. And if something is bad, like their lawsuit, I'm an expert witness in many, many lawsuits. If contract negotiations are going poorly, and let's say they're going to try to sign somebody or re-sign somebody after they've already signed and the contract just coming in, people call me up, say, Rick, I can't get together with this guy. Can you help me out? I worked with Don King for 13 years doing it. I was his go-to outside guy for 13 years. I have clients that range from Russia, the Ukraine, the Middle East, Germany, and a lot of clients in England, of course, the United States and Canada. And that's what I do. I supply all kinds of quality supplemental services. Now, my clients are promoters, TV networks, streaming companies, casinos, both regular casinos and online, managers, fighters, basically everybody. Cutmen come to me and say, I need work. I'm going to be at the show this weekend. Can you get me some gigs? A little bit of everything. And I do it literally 24/7, 365.
What part of it do you like the most?
What's that?
What part of it do you like the most? Making fights?
I like the hardcore negotiations when things are bad and then they call me in to straighten it out. I like that because they really need me and they need a voice of reason for both sides, and it sort of works out for both sides that way. And the best thing about me, Jeremy, which excites everybody I do business with, I don't get paid unless I deliver. So if I can't accomplish, I don't get paid.
So you're a bit of an arbitrator, like a mediator.
Yeah, mediator, arbitrator, broker, agent. I do everything. Just
let's say Marco and I are arguing about a fighter. I signed him first, but my contract was just about to end, and Marco starts courting him at the same time. Is that illegal? I mean,
is it illegal? Broaching a fighter is basically illegal because you're tortious interfering with an ongoing professional relationship and contract. So yes, it would be illegal. Okay, but the deals that I'm doing are deals that people don't like, if they can get somebody or do something on their own, they don't call me. They got a staff, they got people to do. But I'm like the stop for last resort for everybody. So if not, then they have to pay me. But the good part about it, if I don't accomplish, they don't have to pay me. That's the greatest thing in the world. Don King called me the world's greatest bang for your buck.
So let me ask you this: do you still work for Don King or with him?
No, actually, I got life-threatening cancer, and on October 3rd, I discovered it on October 3rd of 2016. I was with Don as his outside guy from February 18th of 2003 to 2000. Then, and I couldn't travel anymore, and I didn't step back out of the business. I just stepped back, and I was very selective. And what I did, because I was on all kinds of chemo and all kinds of painkillers and all kinds. They had me on everything under the sun. So I wasn't able to function like I normally did. So if I was sleeping for like 6 hours and I wake up to like 150, 200 emails, texts, and I could only have so many clients. And Don was, was fading out of the business. And, you're talking about, what is now 6 years ago, and Don's now going to be 91 shortly. Don was 85. He was doing a show here and a show there. And I just elected to and I couldn't travel at the time at all. So I elected to cut back clients to where I only had to do things over the phone and over the internet, rather than show up and be in a meeting or be in New York or be in Florida or be in Vegas or be in LA. So it worked out well. But Don and I are still very good friends. We talk 2 to 3 times a week, and if he needs me, he knows I'm there for him.
Okay,
And it's comforting for both of us, actually.
Let's rewind it a little bit. So, what got you into boxing to begin with?
I was a career criminal, actually. I was indicted for racketeering in 1989. I was involved in. I was the leader of a loan sharking, extortion, bookmaking, a crap game, a little bit of everything, odometer rollbacks on cars, a little bit of everything. And the FBI indicted me on May 5th of 1989. And they erred in my case very badly. And my lawyer called them out on it with the federal judge. And the judge eventually sided with me. And the FBI, the judge, accepted what we said. And what it was that when I got indicted, they tried to get $500,000 bail. Now that was, remember, 1989. That's like $2 million today. So what happened was that the judge, that they said that I was violent and dangerous and settled all disputes of violence, which was total horseshit. I never harmed anybody. I didn't have to. So what happened was my lawyer come up with the brilliant idea that he's going to approach the judge, because in all the pre-trial hearings, they kept saying I was violent and dangerous and settled all disputes of violence. So my lawyers said to the judge, this is what I'd like to do, Your Honor. I know my client didn't hurt anybody. He never threatened anybody. And this is all propaganda and false innuendo by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. So this is what I like to do. If they can bring in 3 people that says that I harmed them or threatened to harm them, I'll plead my client immediately to 3 years. Okay, and a fine. If they can't find 3 people that'll testify and you agree to their testimony, he says my client gets probation and a fine. The judge turned to the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office, and they says, no problem. That's the deal. You guys got 90 days to 60 days to come up with the 3 witnesses. So not only couldn't they come up with 3, not only couldn't they come up with 2, not only couldn't they come up with 1, they came up with 0. So the judge said, return to the court in 60 days. I'm going to sentence you. I got 5 years probation and a huge fine. But back then it was a staggering amount of money, the fine. Okay. And how did I get in boxing? Well, this lady probation officer was a real doozy. Let's put it that way to you. And she didn't like me. She thought I should have been in prison. So what happened was she was making me go down Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and she used to make me urinate in the bottle, and for checking drug or alcohol use. And the truth of the matter is, I never had a single drink or never did any drugs. So what happened was, I got tired of it. Went to my lawyer. He went back to the federal court judge, and the judge said to me, listen, you've been robbing this community long enough. I'm gonna say you got to go down once a month. You don't have to piss in the bottle anymore, but you have to do community service for at least the next 2 years. So what did I do? I went down to the Buffalo PAL, the boxing gym, and I started working with the kids. Took the kids to the Golden Gloves, and a couple of the kids wanted to turn pro. Well, Jeremy probably knows one of the guys. There's Brian Laspada, who became one of the top cruiserweights in the world. You probably sparred with him, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a real slick kid, real slick guy with a great jab, smart fighter.
Definitely.
Did you ever
Got
fight
stopped
before?
on a what's that?
Did you ever box yourself?
No. Yeah, oranges in Florida in the winter. No, I'm kidding you. So I never had the only gloves I ever had were winter gloves.
Okay.
So
were
what
you a
basi-
fight fan before this?
I was a big boxing enthusiast. I went to when I was I wasn't even I wasn't even 13 years old then. I was 12. I went to the Ali Frazier closed circuit. Ali Frazier won at the Bailey Avenue movie theater here in Buffalo. And I was, like I said, I was just 12 years old. And I took a liking to boxing immediately. I went because it was a big event, but then I took the boxing immediately. And I studied it for 20 years before I ever entered it in 1991. I just felt that was at the time I was ready. So, and I had been in trouble, and I was looking for a way out of being in more trouble.
Well,
So, it's what happened, and the kids wanted to turn pro, and that's how I got in the business, and
so
took off.
let me ask you this: you were mentioning that you were a mediator, an arbitrator. What fights, if you could talk about them, did you ever arbitrate or mediate that ended up
Well,
happening?
it wasn't. They're not fights necessarily. They're
Okay.
bad deals. In other words, where promoters are suing fighters, fighters are suing promoters, managers are suing fighters, fighters are suing managers, that kind of thing.
And
It's
you kind of
when you do fights, you're matchmaking or you're brokering a deal. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with boxing, what people don't get. Okay. So let's say Jeremy Williams was going to fight. Let's say he was going to fight Henry Akawandi or somebody like that back in the day. Okay. Everybody knows who's got Jeremy and everybody knows who's got Henry Akawandi. So they don't need Rick Glaser. Okay. It's the little guy in Timbuktu that they don't know, or the guy in Africa, or the guy in Russia, some of the smaller guys on the way up and stuff, or they're already 10-round fighters and their promoter doesn't have internet or manager doesn't have international reach. And then they come to me and they say, hey, can you get us a fight? We're looking for something. He's 17-0, 20-0, 20, he's number 12, number 8. And then I broker a deal. And my percentage is basically 10%, but I've worked for as little as 2.5%.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it depends on how big the fight is.
So now, when I've read about you, and it says you've worked with Holmes, Duran, Lewis, Camacho.
Well, I actually didn't work. Okay, so Lennox is a foul. I never worked with Lennox directly. I worked with Emmanuel Stewart, and I was supplying all the sparring, nine out of 10 sparring partners for Lennox. Some of the sparring partners I didn't supply were guys that were friends of Lennox's from Toronto or from England or Lennox.
Jeremy sparred him for the Holyfield fight.
There you go. Okay, well, I know that I didn't supply that. So like Emmanuel, he wanted to look at a fighter, so he would put him in with Lennox, heavyweight or cruiserweight or something like that. So those are the guys I didn't supply. But basically speaking, I supplied him with an awful lot of guys. And Emmanuel and I were tight, but we in the end, in the last year and a half, we had a bad falling out. I didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. It's just that when he had the problem with Don with the the fighter Bundridge, Canine Bundridge.
Yeah.
I sided with Don because Don was right,
Well,
and I told Emmanuel that.
let me ask you a question. So I know you're
Sure.
cool with Don, and Don is obviously considered, he's very notorious. Do you find that people sometimes you're guilty by association and people
100%.
that happens a lot
That's
with you?
one of the reasons why Don liked me so much is because people trusted me and trust me to this day and believe in me, and they know I'm not a con man, and they know and I told Don's like tried to like, I don't think mean do anything bad, but like tell me to go offer a guy 100,000 for a fight that's worth 150, and the guy wanted 200. I go, Don, the fight's worth 150. If you want me to offer him 150, he won't take 200 from you. That's fine. I'll go do that. I'm not going to go offer him 100,000 when the fight's worth 150. I
Right.
won't do that. I'm not going to compromise myself for a few dollars because my reputation makes me a lot of money. So I'm in itself, and I'm not going to go compromise myself. I won't do that for anybody. So
Okay.
that's just, God, I might as well be wearing a shorts, black skirt, and red high heels if that was the case. You know what I'm saying? Because I'd be a hoe, So I'm not a hoe.
How many
What's that?
fights you put together? How many big fights you put together?
Oh, big
Like,
fights, not that many. Probably 2 to 3 a year, big fights. But I do 60. I average 16 deals a month total. In
Can
other
you
words,
tell us?
in some form or another. In other words, whether it's a booking sparring partners, whether it's an opponent, whether it's a advisory fee, whether it's a expert witness in a lawsuit. I did 5 lawsuits last year alone. So none of them went to trial. Actually, they were all settled out of court after reading some of my depositions. So, um, it's one of those kind of things where people call me and when they don't have a resolve to the problem. Some people give me business just because they like me or they don't have the time to handle it, and they say, oh, Rick, they do this for me, blah blah blah, you can earn some money. I says, like, you can earn. I says, no problem. It depends. It's just it's a business that you've got to be ready to go 24/7, 365. The fact that I don't drink, and the fact I don't do drugs, and the fact that I don't need a lot of sleep really helps me a lot. So there you go.
What's that kid from Buffalo, little white boy from Buffalo who was making some noise in the heavyweight division a few
Joe
years?
Macy.
Macy. Joe Macy?
Yeah,
Joe
Joe Macy. Yeah, Joe Macy. Yeah, he's in his 40s now, mid 40s. He's selling maybe 46, 47, maybe even now. I'd have to figure it out. But he's married with children. Matter of fact, I know the woman he married. In other words, I knew her before they were married. And he owns, he's in the medical supply field where he sets up systems for hospitals with equipment and computers and everything else. And he works for a huge company out of Boston, and that's worldwide. And he's like a regional guy, like from like, I don't know, maybe Detroit to like all through New York State, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and that's what he does. He sets up seminars. He teaches the people in the hospital, and he's doing very well with it. Actually, I see him. I see him once in a while, and his wife's great. I mean, he's really he's a real good guy. Great. He's a great guy. No complaints there.
So let me ask you, are you where you want to be? Are you happy with where you are, or do you have
Oh yeah. No,
aspirations to do other things?
no. When I first started, I promoted my own fighters from 92 until what year was that? 2007
What
into 2008. Then
what
we had the
fighters did
recession.
you what fighters did
Oh,
you
Billy Irwin, two world title shots at lightweight, once WBA, once IBF. He had the unlucky thing to be mandatory for Spadafora. Then at the end of his career, I got him a fight with Juan Diaz for the world title. Robert Frazier, we had the unfortunate situation to fight.
Roy Jones?
No, what's his name? Winky Wright. And
Oh.
and who turned out to be, and we knew he was great at the time, but we were the mandatory. So what are you going to say? It was a vacant title, and he was #1, and we were #2. So
Right.
you don't really have much. We lost a decision on ESPN. Um, a whole host of guys. I was Paul Spatafore's matchmaker for through his whole title runs from his second fight all the way to he was like 45-0-1. He was 9-0-1 in world title fights. And I worked with so many people. Frankie Randall, I was his agent. Simon Brown, his agent. Julian Jackson for a short time was his agent. I was Larry Holmes' matchmaker when he fought on USA for all the USA Network fights and the ESPN fights. Just had I worked with Lionel Butler, as Jeremy knows. I brought him up there, and I worked with him for a little while. He was in bankruptcy, and the bankruptcy judge appointed a lawyer, and the lawyer didn't know much about boxing, so he brought me in, and that's how I got involved with Lionel. It's a kind of business, and Jeremy will tell you, it's a kind of business that every day is completely different than the previous day, and that sort of fits my personality.
So, question: in this boxing, if you had to encapsulate what you did, would it be a good thing, a bad thing, or just par for the course?
I think it's a good thing because I've prevented a lot of lawsuits. I've gotten parties back together again. I've created bad situations into good, so I would say overall it's good. My company is a international, like I said, a worldwide provider of quality supplemental services. But my actual title myself is I'm an international agent, broker, and consultant. And
so you're kind of a fixer, so to speak, right?
Yeah, but in a legal way.
I was going to say it sounds a lot like what you used to do, but now it's just legal.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was well known in my community. And that's one of the reasons why that I didn't have to harm anybody in my previous business, because everybody really knew me. And, if somebody owed me money, you don't put the muscle on them. I said, listen, you owe me 10,000. Can you pay me 200 a week? Yes. Okay. Pay me 200 a week.
Were you affiliated at all with any kind of?
No, I was a Lone Ranger. They tried to affiliate themselves with me, and I sort of put the brakes on that. So,
question: when you look back at boxing, and you say, "Man, I probably should have done this," do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I should have been. I should have probably. If I wouldn't have got fined so much money by the government and had come up with so much legal fees, I went into boxing with less money than I should have, and I could have been a good promoter doing shows at the time on ESPN and USA and ESPN and stuff like that. And I didn't have the funds because I ran through so much money defending myself and then paying my fine, the legal fees and the and at the time, this is a lot of money. The legal fees and the fine totaled $250,000. So,
wow.
Looking at boxing today, if you could change any one thing that could be different and making it different could be better, do you have?
if I was running TV networks, I would give the promoters X amount of dollars for a show and tell them that a certain amount of money has to go into the undercard that's off TV to help develop younger fighters and bring along the next generation of stars. The sport is too top heavy and not at the bottom of the not at the middle and the bottom. So in other words, what I mean by that is the money's in the main event and the co-main event, but what about the 7 undercard fights and the guys are making peanuts? So I would say that I would have the promoters say, okay, so much of a percentage would have to go into the undercard of this total amount of money that I'm giving you. And this would help bring that. Then this way, the TV network can put those fights in the can, use them for maybe another show or fillers or whatever, and you can bring along younger fighters for the next generation.
I think I think that would be a great idea, and I would have never said that because I never thought of it like that. But that makes so much sense.
Thank you
Because
very much.
even
Also,
though
the second thing I would have done is what I would have done is I would have forced the promoters. I would have the I would have liked to force the promoters to get everybody health insurance that they actually promoted and held under promotional agreement. This way, promoters aren't signing fighters up and just keeping them because now they got to pay health insurance on them every month. Too many fighters are just sitting around,
yeah,
waiting for a phone call. Oh, you got this guy? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the guy hasn't fought in 15 months, and he doesn't have the money to get out of the promotional deal because the promoter breached the contract.
Right.
So these are things that I would do. Another thing that I would do is what I would like to be seen done is a group of lawyer arbiters, mediators, to dispute promotional agreements for fighters and management agreements for fighters and managers against promoters, which is always a smaller guy, where in fact that everybody chips in X amount of dollars a month to be in like a guild, and then we assign you a lawyer for a case, and then the lawyer takes the case, and then he represents that fighter for free.
well, it's not.
Okay.
It's. I understand what you're saying. Baseball has that. Football has it.
And
Basketball.
boxing should have it. Thank you. Why
We
not?
Well, I think
Let me just tell you one thing. You take away IndyCar racing and Grand Prix racing and dirt track sprint car racing because NASCAR is pretty safe. Okay. Boxing is the most dangerous sport that there is, and the fighters have the least amount of representation. And I'm not talking about managers and advisors. I'm talking about just period. And they just they're not treated properly. Okay,
so.
thank you.
So, what do you think about the new influx of these YouTube guys who are bringing more eyeballs to boxing? Do you think it's
Horrible,
helping the
horrible,
sport or
horrible. Because
horrible?
they're not boxers, they're frauds. Okay, and they're not fighting real fighters. If you told me that Jake Paul is going to fight um, a current version of Jeremy Williams, a cruiserweight, even if it's an 8-round fight, I'd say okay, fine. But they're fighting frauds. They're fighting football players,
Let me say
MMA
this, though.
guys.
Let me say this though. Jake Paul, and I don't like him. Let me be clear, but
Okay.
he's building himself up, right? So he wouldn't fight a
So
Jeremy Williams now anyway. He's
he's
fighting a
building
Tommy Fury. He's
But
fighting a Tommy Fury who could
but he's not fighting real fighters.
Well, Tommy
He's
Fury
not.
is a real fighter, sort of.
Please, come
Well,
on.
put the word sort of behind it. It means he's not real.
Sure.
He's not. It's not real. Let me explain. I'm a purist. I'm an old school purist. I'm a real boxing guy with an old soul. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I deal with the Bruce Tramplers. We talk boxing almost every day, at least 4 or 5 times a week minimum. And I deal with the Don Majewskis, all the old school guys that have been in business 50 years plus. And I'm a boxing guy. That's a fraud. Those are frauds. Okay, that's complete. And they're using boxing. They're using the boxing does have a good name for excitement. They're using the good name of boxing to procrastinate and facilitate a fraud, and that's what they're doing. And when I say procrastinate, they're procrastinating because they're procrastinating fighting stiffs, so they don't have to fight real fighters, and it looks real to some dummy that watches them on YouTube.
Do you think that somebody like Jake Paul could potentially be a decent fighter with experience over time?
No.
Why not?
Because he doesn't have fighting instincts. He doesn't understand. Jeremy will tell you this is boxing's instinctual. There's certain things you can teach a guy how to throw a shorter left hook and a right hand that comes from here instead of out here or up here, where it comes right from here, boom, like that. You can teach that. You can't teach instincts. There's no such thing.
I fought too for many years, and I agree with you. I do think though that
wait. Let me interrupt you. You didn't get hit a lot. I could tell that.
that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I think there are certain people though that do have more natural ability than others. You know what I mean?
Of course,
Um,
there's no question.
Jake Paul has power. I mean, I'll give him that. The rest,
He has power.
Listen, let me explain about power. Okay, power's great. He gets in with a fighter that moves 2 inches to the left and 2 inches to the right. That motherfucker's out of business. Right? Am I wrong?
that's a good point. That's a good point.
He's fighting guys that are walking straight in at him, and he can't miss them. If he fights somebody that moves 2 inches to the left and 2 inches to the right, he'll be so confused his head will look like a fan of swivel.
So you don't think that it's good if somebody like him is good for at least bringing more sets of eyeballs?
No, because it's a fraud. They're perpetrating a fraud on people and using professional boxing to do it. Okay, I don't agree with it all. Now, if you were on free TV, I would, okay, like even Showtime, which is like regular, like with premium cable, you pay, but that's all right. But to pay $59.95, $69.95 to watch these guys, it's a fraud.
Okay.
I agree 100%.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Rick, who are your? We ask people this on our show all the time. Can you name me your top 5 greatest fighters of all time, in your opinion?
Well, that's easy.
Go ahead.
Okay. Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler,
Good.
Larry Holmes, Lennox Lewis,
Okay.
and I would say for a different reason, Alexis Arguello.
Yeah.
Okay, not because he was so great, but he was so classy in victory and in defeat. And it's a funny thing somebody once said to me about Alexis Arguello that knew him really well. He was no different than if he won or if he lost after the fight. He would just leave the locker room slower if he lost.
Okay.
So that tells you a lot about the guy. He was a very classy guy. How he hugged the Mancini's, Boom Boom and the father after the fight, after he knocked them out late in the fight. Those are my favorite fighters.
So-
Followed by Sugar Ray Leonard, who I like as a person. He was great. I was never a fan of Tommy Hearns, even though he was exciting. Wasn't really a fan, but I liked watching him fight. No question about that.
Who are your current top 5 pound for pound that are currently?
I would have to say Terrence Crawford would be number 1. I would say Newey's number 2. I know this is going to shock everybody. Okay. I know this is going to shock everybody, but Bam Rodriguez is number 3 right now after his performance the other night already.
Okay.
Nobody's beating him at 115 pounds, and he's a real. Let me tell you about Bam. Bam's 22 years old. He's got unbelievable amount of maturity level in and out of the ring. He's got ring intelligence that's of genius. He's got hands and feet and movement. A cross between Joe Calzaghe and Paul Spadafora, and he's got real pop too.
I've never heard of him, Jeremy. I just heard about this guy. He looks good.
Like an animal.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your third. Who are the other 2?
I don't know. I would say right now, after his performance the other night, I would have to say Devin Haney would be 4. After his performance, now being undisputed. And I would say people think I'm crazy for this, but Jamel Charlo, undisputed junior middleweight champion, I think he'd rate right up there. I would have Canelo is the best super middleweight. He just outdid himself in the last fight and went up against a guy with a bad style. Not necessarily too big, but a bad style. He was too big, but the size didn't beat him. It was the foot speed in and out and around that beat him. And the guy knew when to get in and out, and the guy knew when to hold, and his timing was perfect. And he made him look a little foolish. Canelo's number 6. Canelo's number 6.
So you took him off the top pound for pound list because of his loss to Bivol?
No, not top pound for pound. I just put him number 6. Not in the top 5. Yeah, pound for pound lists are top 10 normally, but so he'd be number 6 right now. I
Okay.
would say Tyson Fury's number 7, undefeated. He's beaten any top fighter they put him in a ring. It was Klitschko. Basically 3 Wilder fights. The first one he got
Yeah,
robbed. He should have got that fight. But the last 2
absolutely.
he finished them off. Then he went out and knocked out dead with 1 punch Dillian White. I don't think you can dispute how great a fighter he is. I would say Usyk
He'll
is
come
right
back?
behind him. What's that?
Do you think? Do you think he'll come back, Fury, or do you think he'll stay retired?
Oh yeah, there's not even a question.
Do you
Not
think
even a
Usyk?
question.
Let's say Usyk wins, right, against Joshua, which is likely. Do you think Usyk has a shot against Tyson Fury?
Oh yeah, absolutely, he's got a shot. But I don't think he wins. Of course, he's got a shot. Listen, I developed a very nice line years ago. Jeremy will like this line. So there was a guy 22-0, 20-0, whatever, come over from Africa, South Africa, a little guy, Cedric Kirshner had him. I don't remember his name. I called up this guy in Boston who had a guy 14-7. It was a little 8-rounder. The guy was just going to be over here 10 days. He was just going to be here 10 days, and they wanted just a soft touch. So I called up the manager, and I'm telling him about the guy's 22-0 and all these knockouts and stuff. His guy was like 14-7, couldn't fight much. I says, it's a fair fight. He says, what's so fair about it? I said, they'll both be wearing 8-ounce gloves.
Okay. So, what? So I think you already answered the question based by your top 5, but Spence versus Crawford, who do you have?
I definitely have Crawford. Too agile, switch hitter. Spence doesn't switch. He's in and out. He's got very nimble feet, very fast hands, very powerful, very accurate, and he's got killer instinct. It's tough to overcome killer instinct when you've got all those other things going for you too.
Okay.
Agree. A guy who is determined to win is going to win.
Thank you.
Like that.
Sure. Yeah, right. What my saying is, if all things are equal, the guy with the better desire wins. If all things are equal in every other department, you look for the foot speed. Who's ever got the faster feet normally wins the fight.
So why did you omit Spence from your top 5?
Because I think he's on the back 9. I don't think he's what he once was. I'm not saying he's shot, but he's not what he was. You can't go through that car accident. You can't go through that eye surgery. You can't have those long periods of inactivity, and come back and be the same person. He's not the same person. He doesn't pivot like he did. He got hurt real bad in the Ugas fight. Ugas didn't even know he hurt him. So
he punched right before he knocked his mouthpiece out.
Correct.
Right. I don't know if he got hurt real bad, but yeah, he definitely got stunned, and it was a very weird response.
Believe me when I tell you, Crawford hurt him. Crawford would have stepped in with a blast out. Crawford's a mean guy. He's got 2 personalities. Outside the ring, he's wonderful. In the ring, he's mean. That's what makes fighters great.
Yeah.
That to be able to turn off and turn on what you can do is so important. And when you can judge a fight by the way the rhythm is going in the fight, because an unrhythmic fight is so hard to watch.
I'll tell you a funny story about that, Jeremy. So one time I'm in New York City. I'm in this little Italian restaurant, and we had lunch with a friend of mine, and it was another guy there, and the guy left, and I said, "Yeah, nice guy." He says, "Yeah, that nice guy's got 6 bodies." So there you go.
Have you ever worked with Al Heyman?
I had the unfortunate situation to work with him in 2001 and 2002 with Vernon Forrest and Lou DiBella, and the guy makes me puke. I'll leave it like that.
Will you elaborate?
Vernon Forrest is my brother, and anytime somebody says something, I just gotta say, my brother, rest in peace. Man.
No. I love Vernon. Charles Watson. Great guys. Heyman was such a bad guy. He pushed out Charles Watson. Do you know Charles Watson, James? Jerry?
Yeah, I do.
Nice guy. Heyman just I told Lou DiBella, and I talked those idiots into the fight with Shane Mosley. They had no confidence, either of them, and I talked them into them. And Shane and Vernon guaranteed he'd beat him. I the one that told him that he would beat him. Then there was a big beef because the IBF had the mandatory that Vernon was owed a mandatory. IBF mandatory, was IBF champ. Mosley was WBC champ. So I had a great relationship with the IBF. I still do. And they wanted me to call them, the IBF, up. Now remember, the IBF the guys had just been indicted, not the guys that I did business with, but these were the new guys I was doing business with, and they were under a federal watch. And I told those guys that there's no way. They wanted me to talk to them about prolonging the mandatory, him being the friggin' keeping the title and stuff like that. I said, they're not going to do it. He says, just try. I says, okay, Lou, I'll just try. That's all Al expects you to do is try. And Al wasn't a powerful guy in boxing at the time. He had Vernon Forrest and he had Derek Edwards. So I called up Joe Dwyer, okay, my friend at the IBF. I called up Daryl Peoples, my friend at the IBF. And Daryl's now president, Joe's now deceased. I called them up and I got on a conference call with them. They were both in the office. It wasn't a conference call, it was a speaker phone. You know what I'm saying? They were in the office together. And I told them what, and Heyman didn't mean anything at the time of boxing. His name meant nothing. And I told them what I used the Bella. And the Joe Dwyer says to me, Rick, you know we can't do that. Okay? Okay, not only is the feds watching us, it's not something we would do if the feds weren't watching us. I says, guys, I knew that. I just wanted to clear the air. I called up Lou, and I told Lou, he said, oh, I said, okay. He gets me back on the phone with fucking Heyman. Okay, Heyman doesn't say a word. Lou's just chastising me like it's a Playhouse 90, good guy and bad guy here. You know, one of those phony bullshit deals. Well, we went to the fight. Al Heyman never said hello to me at the post-fight press conference. Never said, "Hey, Rick, thanks for the, blah blah blah." Never. Then I sat across from him at dinner at one of those. I don't know. I don't know. It was Carnegie Deli or one of those places. And it was Cedric Kirshner was there, me, Mike Acree was there. We were all there, and mostly everybody's dead now except me, DiBella, and Heyman. And Al sat right next to me, wouldn't even look at me, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't do anything. I said to myself, I told Lou, I said, Lou, I could bitch slap you on both cheeks for putting me in this spot. Now I'm the one that brought Vernon Forrest to Lou. That was my involvement when Heyman was a puke. I contacted Charles Watson, and then we made the deal. Heyman got on the phone with Lou, okayed the deal, and everything else.
Can you name?
Cedric Kushner's dead?
Oh, he's been dead for years.
Oh, wow.
I forgot. I did a couple shows with him, so.
I know you did.
So Rick, so you had an involvement with Forrest Mosley. Can you name a few other mega fights that you were involved in?
Yeah, no mega fights really. Just Calzaghe and Roy Jones. I was the matchmaker and director of competition for. What's wrong?
That fight pissed. I'm a huge Roy Jones fan, and if they would have fought 10 years earlier, that would have been such a different outcome. But
I'm going to tell you what. I love Roy, and he's a personal friend. I love Roy. I got his phone number. I call him. We talk. We're friends. Joe Calzaghe had the style. Okay, remember something, which you're missing, Marco. That was Joe Calzaghe's last fight because he was shot too. Okay.
I don't know. If they fought 5-10 years earlier, it would have been a wash.
Not at super middleweight. This guy was one of the most unique fighters of all time. I'll leave it like that.
Fighter, but Roy Jones, in my opinion, was the most skilled fighter ever, hands down.
I know, but here's the difference between Calzaghe. Calzaghe was knocked down a few times. He got up. He also threw as many punches in the first round as he did the 12th round and every round in between. Okay.
Yeah.
You look at it. Look at his punch stats. How many punches he landed per round, and look how many he threw. You got to remember something about Roy. Roy was great, but styles can beat fighters. Okay, style. Just like Jeremy fought Larry Donald. Larry Donald never stood in front of him. Larry Donald ran like a thief in the night, threw his hands out, put him in a headlock, and Jeremy couldn't unload the bombs. It's styles. If
I
he would
agree.
have stood in if he would have stood in front of Jeremy, Jeremy would have knocked his fucking. I'm not saying he would have stopped him because Larry had a good chin, but
Yeah,
Larry didn't have no heart. Larry had no heart.
You're right, but I think Roy Jones was just a one in a 10 million.
I'm not disagreeing, but so was Joe Calzaghe. Okay,
I think Roy would have beat him real easy, but doesn't matter at this point.
okay. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that Roy wasn't a better fighter, but I think it was a very unique style.
Yeah, no, Joe. I like Joe. He was, obviously they called, Cal Slappy. I think they called him. He didn't have the most power, but
Well, how that happened. He had power, so then he broke his hands were very brittle, and he broke his hands multiple times. So that's how that happened. So then he started punching with open gloves. In other words, where he was flicking the punches rather than setting down on the punches.
oh, okay, no, I didn't know that.
A few times in a fight, my break a knuckle and I got to slap. I got to slap him and punch. I know exactly what you mean. I've done it many times.
Jeremy, I just got to let you know something. You look exactly like you did 15, 20 years ago. Most fighters get old, fat, ugly, and they don't look like they used to. You look the same exactly.
Goddamn right.
Still old, fat, and ugly, yeah.
Wait, no. Handsome, awesome machine.
Jeremy, I'll tell you who died recently. Steve Lott died.
Yeah, we know.
Heard that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I know Steve Lott well, yeah, it was sad. I talked to him.
Did he die of health issues or just?
No, he fell.
No, he had epilepsy and he collapsed. He fell and hit his head on marble.
He would get seizures and he fell and hit his head from a seizure.
Yeah.
Bill Caton still around?
No.
Oh, he died a long time. He died. He's been dead for, oh God, maybe almost 20 years.
In the 90s, right? 2000s?
2000.
What about Lou?
Have you heard what happened with Kevin Rooney, Rick?
Yeah, he's got dementia real bad. He's in an old folks home.
Yeah, right here in Brooklyn, not too far from me. Yeah. I used to live, me, Jeremy, Hassim, Rockman, we all lived in Kevin's house, and it's sad.
I'll tell you a quick story about Kevin. And I like Kevin. He was always treated me really well. And he comes up to me one day at a fight and he says, "Rick, I need a whole bunch of sparring partners." I said, "What weight class?" I said, "I need heavyweights, but I'll take some cruiserweights." I says, "Okay, fine." He says, "How tall?" He says, 6'3", blah, blah, blah. So I call him up and I says, "I got guys between 6'1.5" and 6'4". I don't have anybody exactly 6'3". Okay, I'll take them. So I get a phone call about 2 days after these two guys are up there. There was three guys and he took two of them. I get a phone call from Bill Caton. Who was sparring? Michael Grant. Okay.
Right.
But Kevin wasn't training Michael Grant. Some other guy, I can't remember who was. Kevin wasn't training, but they were using the training camp up there. But Bill Caton asked Kevin to make the call for him. Okay, fine. I get a call from Bill Caton. "No, Rick, these are sparring partners. They're not what we were looking for." I says, "Why? What's wrong?" "I just talked to Kevin. They're up there and they're doing well." "Well, one is 6'1.5", and one is 6'4". "We need guys 6'3". I said, "Bill, I'll go right out to the fight factory, the fighter factory, and look for two more guys just for you. You can pay for two more plane tickets, send these guys home early, and everything else." He says, "Rick, I think you're being sarcastic." I says, "No, I'm being really serious." I says, "Bill, you're not fighting somebody so great with your guy. Just relax with this guy that you're involved with, this Michael Grant." Who was he fighting? A guy who he knocked out in one round. This is 1995. Who did he knock out? Louis Churchill from Buffalo, who's now a dear friend of mine who was at my house for dinner last week with him and his wife. Okay, I mean, it was going to be a one-round knockout. I mean, what was the difference? You know what I mean? It didn't matter.
Yeah, well, Bill Caton likes to other people's money.
Yeah, he was a ball buster too. Very dry sense of humor. A brilliant guy at what he did. No question about that.
He charged me for everything.
I know.
All the way down to the stamps to mail a letter to my house.
Tolls too, right? The tolls he would charge you for.
The total, like we go from the
Yeah.
city. That's good.
I'll tell you what I do, Jeremy. You know what I advise fighters to do and managers? Just take 2.5% out of the guy's purse, okay? Besides your management fee, and that covers all the miscellaneous expenses, so there's no misunderstandings. Okay, that's really the way it should be, right?
You get burned so much because you don't know.
Right. You just take 2.5% out, and it covers all the phone calls, the miscellaneous, anything that who needs to be nickeled and dimed to death. It just creates for it doesn't create for good relationships.
True. Well, Rick, it's been really good talking to you.
Boy, come on. I'm going till 11:30 here. Come on now.
My phone's about to die, so you go by yourself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Jeremy, it's been a pleasure. If you guys want me on again, be love to come on again.
Definitely.
No problem. I hope I was very informative for you guys and your all your viewers, subscribers, and anytime you got my number, you got my email address, you got everything, and just give me a call anytime you'd like. And
we will.
Jeremy, what part of California you live in?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, you're right in Los Angeles. You know, I'm real close with a Freeway Rick Ross.
Oh shit! What?
Yeah, we're trying to get him on the show actually.
Oh, I talked to him 5 times today. You want him on the show? You got him. Not even if you want me on with him. I've been on many shows with him. Great. If not, Freeway can be on. He doesn't need me. He's a great speaker, great guy.
That'd be great.
And he's really turned his life around compared to what 31 years ago. It's a funny thing. He went to prison in 91 and I got boxing in 91. So
that'd be great. Yeah, we'll contact you for that, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. I'm as close as a phone if you want Freeway. Jeremy, it's been a pleasure. Your pleasure. Marco, thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me. And anytime you want me, I'm available. Okay?
All right. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thanks, guys. Good evening. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.